In 1999, 18 people gathered in a Hangzhou apartment and decided to bet on the internet. 15 years later, Alibaba would make one of the largest IPOs ever recorded. The 2014 offering priced Alibaba shares at $68 each. The offering raised about $25 billion, setting a global record at the time. And the man behind it had once struggled simply to get hired. Jack Ma was not trained as a technologist, financier, or engineer. He was an English teacher from Hangzhou who had learned the language unusually. As a teenager, he practiced English with foreign visitors in Hangzhou. For years, he volunteered as a free guide at the Hangzhou hotel. The tourists taught him English, but they also showed him a world beyond his classroom. His first battle was not entrepreneurship. It was education. He failed university entrance exams 3 times before being accepted. He eventually attended Hangzhou Teachers University, studying to become an English teacher. After graduation, he became an English teacher earning roughly 100 renminbi monthly. Then he started applying for jobs, and collecting rejection letters. Jack later said he applied for about 30 jobs and was rejected. When KFC arrived in his city, he said 23 applicants were accepted and he was the one rejected. Even the police rejected him, according to Ma's own account. He even told the World Economic Forum that Harvard rejected him 10 times. Rejection was becoming less an obstacle than a pattern he learned to survive. Then, in 1995, an ordinary business trip introduced him to the internet. A friend showed him the web, and Jack typed one simple word, beer. The surprising result was not beer. It was what the internet did not contain about China. Jack saw an absence. Most people might have seen a blank screen. He returned to China convinced the internet could create something new. His first internet company was China Pages. It is often described as one of mainland China's earliest internet businesses. But China Pages did not become the empire. It became the lesson. According to contemporaneous accounts, China Pages was pulled into a difficult partnership with China Telecom. Jack learned what it felt like to lose control of his own idea. Instead of abandoning the internet, he changed the problem he wanted to solve. China was becoming an export manufacturing giant, but many small businesses lacked global access. Jack believed the internet could connect those businesses directly to buyers abroad. In early 1999, he returned to Hangzhou with a much bigger ambition. 17 friends joined him, creating the 18-person founding team. The first Alibaba was not a consumer shopping app. It was wholesale commerce. Its purpose was simple: help Chinese exporters reach global buyers. The founders believed the internet could level the playing field for small companies. But the technology was still primitive, and trust across borders was difficult. Alibaba therefore had to solve a human problem before it could solve a digital one. Buyers needed confidence that an unknown Chinese supplier was real. Sellers needed proof that distant buyers would actually pay. Alibaba's real product was trust at scale. Jack also understood something about small businesses because he had been an outsider himself. Then global internet investors began noticing the company. In 1999, Goldman Sachs and SoftBank became major early backers. But the internet bubble was already creating dangerous expectations. Alibaba still had to prove that Chinese e-commerce could work. And Jack's strongest asset was not code. It was persuasion. He could explain an unfamiliar future in language ordinary business owners understood. In 2000, Alibaba was already facing the realities of a changing technology market. Then the dot-com bubble burst, turning easy optimism into survival. Alibaba regrouped in Hangzhou while others chased deals and disappeared. Ma reportedly turned down several distractions, choosing to protect Alibaba's core identity. Survival required something more boring than vision, execution. Alibaba needed merchants to list products, buyers to trust them, and transactions to repeat. Once enough merchants arrived, the marketplace began feeding itself. The internet was becoming infrastructure for commerce, not merely communication. Then another problem appeared: how would Chinese consumers buy online? Alibaba's answer eventually helped create a broader consumer ecosystem. Taobao launched in 2003, bringing Alibaba directly into consumer commerce. The move put Alibaba against established competitors with deeper pockets. Jack's strategy was not to outspend them. It was to outbuild the network. More sellers attracted buyers, and more buyers attracted still more sellers. The marketplace was becoming an ecosystem rather than a website. That ecosystem needed payment, logistics, advertising, cloud technology, and data. That is where Alibaba stopped looking like a startup and started looking like infrastructure. In 2005, Yahoo invested $1 billion and acquired a major stake in Alibaba. The investment strengthened Alibaba's financial position and validated Jack Ma's model. But the biggest battle was still ahead: becoming indispensable to Chinese consumers. Alibaba built habits, and habits are harder to replace than websites. Then came Singles Day, which transformed shopping into a national digital event. Alibaba was no longer asking whether people would shop online. They were. The question became how large the machine could become. Jack Ma had started with a website. Now he was running a network of networks. But success also created a contradiction: the outsider was becoming the establishment. The English teacher who struggled to get hired had become China's most famous internet entrepreneur. Yet the biggest test would come in public markets. In September 2014, Alibaba entered the New York Stock Exchange. Alibaba's IPO raised about $25 billion, setting a new record at the time. For a former teacher, the number was almost impossible to comprehend. But the real empire was never the stock price. It was the dependence of millions of businesses on digital infrastructure. That power created prosperity, but also dependence and enormous responsibility. The company that empowered merchants could also shape which merchants got visibility. A marketplace becomes powerful when participation itself becomes difficult to avoid. This is where the story stops being only about one rejected man. It becomes a story about how technology rearranges power between buyers and sellers. Jack had started by noticing an empty search result. Now he was shaping filled marketplaces. The blank space he saw became an economic network. But empires create their own contradictions. The mission was to help small businesses, yet the platform itself became enormous. The outsider had built a system powerful enough to become part of the establishment. That tension would follow Alibaba long after the founder stepped away from daily management. The question is whether a founder can build something huge without becoming what he once challenged. The story started with rejection, but rejection alone did not build Alibaba. What built it was the ability to turn rejection into information. Every failure narrowed the problem until the internet opportunity became impossible to ignore. That may be the real lesson behind the myth. The outsider did not win because he was never rejected. He won because he kept adapting. He changed industries, business models, partners, and technologies as the world changed around him. Alibaba survived because adaptation became part of the company's identity. The mission eventually expanded beyond commerce into technology infrastructure and cloud computing. The teacher who once struggled with one computer helped create an enormous digital infrastructure. But none of this was visible when he was a teenager guiding tourists for free. The most important advantage may have been curiosity. Curiosity led to English. English led to the internet. The internet led to Alibaba. A chain of decisions can look inevitable only after it has happened. At the time, each decision looked uncertain. The future was never guaranteed. The next attempt simply made more sense than the last. That is how the improbable becomes ordinary, one adaptation at a time. Yet one question remains: did Alibaba preserve the purpose that created it? A company created to help small businesses became one of China's most powerful digital institutions. That transformation is both Alibaba's greatest achievement and its hardest responsibility. Jack's story began with humiliation, but ended with a decision to build instead of complain. He did not know the ending. He only knew the next problem was worth solving. That may be the more useful lesson than the billionaire mythology. Rejection did not make him exceptional. Adaptation kept him moving. So the question is not whether rejection creates empires. It is what you build after it. Tell us what you think in the comments, and subscribe. Each episode, we break down how improbable empires were built from almost nothing.